Hello, welcome to LOA, the channel where we talk about all things law of attraction. And if you've landed on my channel today, I believe it was meant to be, because my intentions for doing these videos is to help people be liberated, to find the freedom to live a happy life, creating the reality they want. So today, I am going to talk about how you can manage your emotions to stay in alignment with what you want to create. I want to first start off though with talking about an experience I had this morning in my meditation. I was meditating, and when I got really still, I was doing the type of meditation, just to kind of explain, there are several types of ways to go into meditation, and it's really through your intention. Like, what do you want out of that experience? There's times that you can go in just gushing with gratitude, so you're just pulling your energy up to where it's a good place to deposit visualizations and affirmations to actually do a creation. There's other times that maybe you're trying to disconnect and diffuse from an energy that you are entangled with, and you want to kind of neutralize it. So you just go into a very calm, quiet place. These are the times that I usually use music and lights and candles, and just get to a very still place. Then there's the type of meditation that I went into today, and it's the kind where you really go into the deepest, most stillest place by first just gently pushing away the thoughts. I kind of look at them as puffy clouds in my mind, and that I can just lightly push them away and not receive any judgment for thoughts popping up, because that will not help you get into a calm place if you start judging and getting annoyed with yourself, like you're supposed to be quiet, stop thinking. So just allow the thoughts, because sometimes the thoughts are supposed to be there. So just kind of orchestrate your thoughts to getting a very still, quiet place. And then I believe all of us can do this. We all have access to the book of life, or other known as the Akashic records, where infinite intelligence can answer a question from the all-knowing. So I have been preparing on talking about emotions, but I also need to talk about it in a class. So I know I have in a workplace, I know I needed to make it about the truth, the knowledge, and the science of it, but I wanted to know how to do that. So today in my meditation, I asked what knowledge needs to be brought forth, and immediately I heard we need to know ourselves. Knowing who we are will create a firm foundation where we can't be wobbled and shaken out of who we are and what we're trying to do and intending. So if you know who you are, you're not trying to defend yourself, prove yourself, you're not trying to get validation from any other kind of source. You just are, and you are just going along your way, and you can easily build others up. You're not trying to tear them down to make yourself feel better. I heard someone tell this story that creation is running so effortlessly and flawlessly, it doesn't need to be told what to do, and it's not trying to fight to really know who it is and understand what it is, right? You don't go into a forest and see a tree saying, hey, look over here, I'm a tree, look at me, I'm a really good tree, I'm a nice tree, look at this bark, and I have really long branches that I cast shade onto people. Aren't I a good tree? Right? I'm a good tree. No, the trees in the forest aren't convincing you of themselves. They know who and what they are. So if we can be like that, know who we are, and know who we are outside of any attachments like our personalities, what we do for a living, we need to just from our core know that we are children of God. We are sparks of source here on earth, and that's amazing. All the other stuff can be bonuses. He laid down that foundation that we really need to know who we are to be able to not be a reed in the wind, blown by life's experiences, newscasts, people, gossip, whatever. He then brought me into the Garden of Eden. It was like a vision. And he particularly zoned in on the part where Eve takes the apple and eats it. And he used that as an analogy to teach me how thoughts turn into information, and information turns into knowledge, and knowledge turns into wisdom. And how he kind of layered that precept upon each other is he was saying a thought is very quick. It's just a bit of information, kind of like plucking the apple off the tree. You have not yet taken a bite of that information. So it's not part of you yet. You've not taken it to the point where you're judging whether it's good or evil, doing the sorting and the sifting. But when you do take a thought, a situation or an experience, and you really start to chew on it, you take a bite and you chew on it, then that becomes knowledge, because you've introduced a knowing with your own mind, maybe not the mind of Christ or source, and you have attached a good or evil label to it. Then the next step, you do an action by swallowing it. You make it part of who you are, and he showed me that's like wisdom or your truth. So we can have a thought that we think long enough, and it just becomes a belief system or an identity, and it becomes part of us and how we are, and that becomes our truth. So if you really kind of deconstruct it and go backwards, it's like wisdom basically is knowledge performed, or you acting upon some knowledge. What I appreciated about this analogy is that it breaks things down into segments where you feel like, oh, I can stop it in its tracks, or I can wield it and aim it and make it work for my highest good. But with that said, we have to be aware, right? We have to be always trying to take inventory and be introspective of what we're feeling and own those feelings. Don't live in denial, but let those feelings give us the information or the knowledge we need, and decide, is this something I want to be part of my wisdom or my truth? Am I going to act on this? Isn't that really cool? God is so good. It was a juicy apple today, I'm telling you. I also want to add here just about emotions themselves. They are amazing and necessary in our life. They are catalysts to moving us in a direction that we may or may not want to go into, but that's the great thing. We have free will, and we can exercise it into going either direction, up the emotional scale or down the emotional scale, which, don't worry, I'm going to talk about that. But I did want to address the fact that don't judge yourself, and don't feel it's even bad or wrong to have thoughts of disbelief, anger, annoyance. You know, it's okay. Really, what he showed me in that analogy of the apple, it's not about picking that apple, maybe not even about biting the apple and chewing it. It's about, do we act on it and live there and make it part of us? So basically it really wraps up to be, how long do we sustain a thought? Does that thought become a reoccurring thought? Okay, so there are my experiences from my meditation this morning. And now I wanted to quickly talk about some experiences I had at work, which is no coincidence that when I'm preparing to talk about emotions and how to manage them, that I had 3 experiences at work where I talked to my employees and use the emotional scale to move them into a better place emotionally. I won't go over all 3 for the sake of time, but I do want to go over at least 2 of them because I feel like they're really relevant to what we feel in everyday life, and it might make you see how you can use the emotional scale to move you into better feeling thoughts so you can align with better feelings to align a better future reality. The first situation that happened, one of my employees was just not herself. I could tell that she was downcasted, and I just asked her how she was feeling, and she started telling me it was about her neighbor. Her neighbor is actually a tyrant, and he kind of runs havoc through the whole neighborhood. He's an alcoholic and a racist, and she was telling me about a little disagreement they had around a parking space that was ultimately his fault, but he got up in arms about it and called the cops. And with the climate today, he was white, the cop was white, and she was black. So she had this natural fear. Am I going to be believed? How is the situation going to turn out? And so she came to work with those emotions still active in her. So with the emotional scale, you can't move from being angry or fearful and move up to being where you can be happy and trust somebody. You can't just jump up the scale immediately. Some people can move a lot quicker, but it's still a process through several emotions and inner dialogue to get there. So I was able to thankfully help her realize that through talking about the situation, she was naturally going up the scale by saying, you know what, he is this way to everybody. It's not personal, and nothing did happen, so I guess not all cops are treating situations like the news is depicting. And she's the inner dialogue started to create and soothe her, right? And we got all the way up to where, of course, she was annoyed and bothered and then kind of got indifferent. And then she actually was able to move to where she had mercy for him. She's like, you know, he is an alcoholic and he must be drinking to drown some certain thoughts or really deep wounds. And he acts a certain way and then probably drinks because he feels bad about it. So he's stuck in a cycle, and I'm just a product because of the vicinity I'm in. I was able to tell her, don't forgive him because he deserves it. Forgive him because you deserve peace. And that just kind of helped break things loose, you know, just seeing what's in it for her greater good. And then in the end, they both are gonna reap the benefits because she'll be a better neighbor, and then she has a better day. The next one was about a situation where the employee was friends with somebody and was picking up their battles. The individual that was her friend is very meek and doesn't stand up for herself. So she felt it was the best thing to do is to pick up her battles, feel really mad for her, and get, you know, revenge and blame that other girl for hurting her. But I was able to let her see that you didn't actually take the energy away from her. She still feels bad, but now you feel bad too. So this is where I wanted to show how emotions actually can work for our good. So I was able to show her that if you always fight her battles, she won't feel that anger and frustration and injustice, to where she stands up for herself and then earns that confidence and self-respect, and then earns the knowledge and skills to learn how to mend bridges. You need to let her learn her way, have her journey, instead of picking up the negative battle and the bad energy. Send her positive thoughts and vibes. Pray for her. Pray for the reconciliation. So I won't go into great detail how we managed to go up the scale, but just through her again seeing who she is and how she best can create a reality for herself and her friend. It's not to pick up the battle. Let's now, two bad energies duking it out. Not good. Okay, what is this emotional scale, you're probably asking? You keep referring to it. Let it out of the bag. So the emotional scale is, first I heard about it through Abrahamhicks. And basically it's got, I'm going to put it on the screen now, but see at the bottom it has basically powerlessness, depression, and fear at the bottom, and the top is joy, power, and hope. So there's so many emotions in between, and if we are always mindful of what we're feeling so we can create an experience in our life to feel good, to have the reality we want, you should just be aware of what you're feeling and process it. Work through it, because we know the emotions can help us know, hey, I shouldn't take that job. I feel really kind of uneasy about it. Or I shouldn't talk about somebody like that because that's not how God sees them. Or I shouldn't talk about myself that way because that's not how God sees me. Now let me show you an axis. So up here is the emotions, but going this way is how long you think and sustain a thought. If you're to quickly sustain a thought, it's just information. It's like plucking that apple, right? You can still put the apple down. You don't have to bite it. It's just information. It's harmless. It's not activated yet. But if you continue to think a thought, it's then going to become a mood, not just a quick experience, but a mood. And that's kind of like just biting the apple. You still have time to spit it out, but no, we want to chew on it because they did me wrong. So, and they're really annoying me. They deserve it. So you then have a sustained thought even longer. It becomes a temperament. Say it's a long-lasting battle between family or friends, and then you just are always annoyed and aggravated with this person. Well, then you are going to be in danger of having this thought even longer to where it becomes a personality trait. I'm sure you've met the people where they just always are negative. They're the persons that sees the glass half empty or just have a negative viewpoint on anything you share. They're just a victim of thinking a thought for too long. But anyone and everyone can come back and reverse it. It's just going to be some hard work, some internal work. So I hope that it shows you how you can always be managing your emotions to work for you, to keep you in a vibrational alignment for the feelings you want to feel in your day and the reality you want to create. So I hope this helped you, because I know there's a lot of things in our daily lives that can kind of bump us, and it's up to how well we know who we are. If that little bump is gonna throw us off of alignment, or it's just gonna be a little bump in the road. So I invite you to take this to heart, practice it, show awareness to your emotions, inventory and examine your emotions, move quickly out of them, and move them to the direction you want. So with that being said, enjoy the journey within.